What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. In the last video I finished painting the rear door on the Evo 10. Unlike the front door, which was a little bit of a learning curve, it took me a few tries. The rear door only took me one try. Everything came out looking absolutely amazing. As to be expected from painting the garage, I did get quite a few dirt and dust nibs. For this video I'll be getting all of those sanded and polished out. We'll get all of the pieces and parts put back on the door, and then hopefully we can get this thing back on the car. Stay tuned. If you didn't see the last video, as always, definitely go check it out. I finally figured out a solution to all of the solvent pop and fisheye problems that I was having. The main issue is that I am painting in my garage, so all of the natural elements I have to deal with, including whatever temperature it is outside. And most of the time I am painting when it is a little bit hotter. Never put reducer into my clear coat before. When I looked at the technical data sheets on the clear coat that I use, it does not say to add any. It says just to use 4 parts clear, 1 part hardener. So that's what I always did. After doing a lot of research, realizing that once it gets a little bit hotter, you've got to add that reducer. Otherwise, that top coat is going to harden over before that solvent has a chance to come out. It was very, very hot when I was painting. It was about 95 degrees. I put 10% of extra slow reducer into my clear coat, and I did not have any solvent pop. I had no fisheye issues at all. The only problems that I did run into, again, were a few dirt and dust nibs, and they are all over just like they were on the front door. I did a video on sanding and polishing all of those out. You can see a lot of those dirt and dust nibs in there, right there, and like I said, they are all over, but most of them are white. Nothing stands out too much. Everything should be invisible once I actually sand and polish it all. The only one that's not going to be invisible, which I showed in my last video after I finished painting the door, was this little guy right here. It was a tiny little fly that flew in there on 3rd coat of clear. I tried getting my tweezers and pulling him out. I got as much as I could without risking damaging the base coat underneath. This is the only little thing that's probably going to be visible from a close distance. I've got all of my sanding and polishing stuff set up over here. I may need a few extra things, but for the most part, this is everything I'm going to be using. I'll knock the initial nibs down with my Tolecut system. It's just a hard block. It's got some sanding pads in here. Fortunately, I don't have anything less than 2500 right now, so that's just going to have to do. It's just going to take me a little bit longer. Once I've got everything knocked down how I like it, I will switch over to probably my 2000. I know that's actually a step down from the 2500, but I want to be able to feather it out so there's no flat spots. Once I'm done, I'll go back over it with the 3000 grit and then the compound and polish. Dirt and dust nibs are all sanded out. Everything is all compounded down. It's all nice and shiny. I was even able to maintain some of that factory orange peel look. The top up here, it looks like came out just a little bit flatter than what this came out down here as, but no big deal. It should look really, really nice. I did do a couple of things differently than what I originally said. These little 2500 grit papers were just not cutting it. They were not sanding those little nibs down fast enough. Decided to stop and just go ahead and order some 1500 grit online. This is what I picked up. This is what I use for all of my other sanding papers on my blocks. It's this Dura Gold, and they actually sell the 1500, 2000, and 3000 in this green paper. A little bit different from just your regular sandpaper. My understanding, this paper is supposed to leave a 1500 grit scratch, but it's supposed to cut like a 1000. It actually worked really, really well. It actually worked too well, because once I actually went back over it with my 2000 and 3000 grit pads, I compounded everything and I could still see these 1500 grit scratches in there. These are the pads that I use. They're a little bit different, obviously. Also, these are actually little pads. They're not papers. On top of that, I was also using the interface pad on the DA. That 1500 grit scratch was having a lot more pressure applied behind it, whereas these 2000 and 3000s both had the padding from themselves and the interface pad. Like every project that I do with this car, it did take me a whole lot longer than I was expecting. I had to go back over everything that had the 1500 grit scratches that I could see in the light. I hit it with the 2000 grit again, really, really good. Hit it with the 3000 again to get it all flattened out, and then hit it with the compound again. Definitely got quite a few hours into sanding and compounding this thing. For the compound, this is what I was using. It's this Meguiar's. I get it at Harbor Freight. It's not exactly cheap, but it's not the most expensive stuff either, and it actually works really, really good. Here is my DA. I picked this thing up off of Amazon. It's actually pretty good quality for something on Amazon, and it's much, much cheaper than the Rupes. For the polishing pad, this medium foam goes with the compound, and then I do have a fine foam that goes with the polish. For all of the smaller spots and some of the deep crevices and things like that, along this edge line right here, I use my drill and this little attachment. It's obviously not a DA, it's rotary, so it does cut a little bit quicker. Use this for all of the areas that the DA just doesn't get to really well. I did go ahead and get the polish out. I did fully plan on doing the polish. However, I decided to just go ahead and hold off on that. Main reason why is the panel is completely flat. I don't see any reason why it needs to be completely polished. It's not a show car. The rest of the paint on this car, aside from these two doors right now, is 15 years old. I would actually rather this thing have a little bit of imperfection so that it matches in. There's a few other things on the door that I'm going to have to put back together. Obviously, I've still got to unmask everything. I leave everything on there because during the sanding and polishing process, you can see that it gets very, very dusty and dirty. This window guide right here is actually loose in there. It needs to be repositioned and screwed back in. The last thing that needs to go on there is the weather stripping that's sitting on the inside here. I took it all off originally. There was a piece down here at the very, very bottom that tore. Kind of sucks that one little tear right here kind of damages the whole thing as it's all one piece. I did order a new one, so I'm going to get that back on there also. Like I said, I'm going to get this thing unmasked. I'm going to get it cleaned up really, really good. There's some leftover compound still kind of in there everywhere. And then once this thing is all ready to go, I'll get it back on the car probably, and then go ahead and get everything put back together. door is finally back on. Everything actually turned out really, really nice. Everything matches up really, really nice. I'm so happy to have these two doors finally finished. All of those rock chips, all of that damage that was down there at the bottom is finally all gone. Looks like two brand new doors on there. As far as the process of getting the door back on, I unmasked everything, got everything cleaned up really, really good. I tried to show it, I think, in the previous video whenever I was actually painting this thing, but this is the weather stripping. It tore down here at the end. You could actually see it through this little crack right here, and I didn't like that. Unfortunately, this is all one piece, so I did order a replacement one and got it on there. Can't actually connect the part where this little weather stripping goes in. This is why this blue tape is here. Pulled this vinyl strip off when I painted the car so that there wasn't a line, so that I could just paint everything. I bought a replacement one to put over it. I did actually film it to put it on here, and as I was going to put it on, I dropped the entire piece on the ground. If anybody's ever dealt with vinyl before, you know once it hits the ground, that tacky side hits the ground, it is completely done for. Unfortunately, I can't get that back on right now, and I can't add that weather stripping in there right now because the vinyl actually has to lay over where those holes are at first, and then the weather stripping goes in. I also went ahead and removed this rain guard on the front door right here. You can see there's still a little bit of the adhesive I need to get off. The rain guard had to come off anyway because I do also have to replace this piece of vinyl. I forgot to lay down a piece of tape, and I started hitting down here with some of the sandpaper. It doesn't pick it up that well right now, but in person you can definitely see those scratches down here at the bottom. Back to the rear door over here, I got the rear glass back in. As you can see, I did get some overspray on the window, so I am going to have to clean that off. Did the same thing by accident to the front door when I was painting it. I really thought I had it masked better this time, but I guess not. The door handle back on, no issues there. From here, I'm just going to get this window cleaned up. I've actually got to take that glass out of there so I can put some lacquer thinner on it. I definitely don't want to risk getting it on my new paint job. And then once this thing is cleaned up, I get it back in the car, I can start putting all the interior back on. Rear door is all finished up. Everything's back on the car. Everything's back on the door. You can see here the window is nice and shiny there through it. I took the front window out to do the same thing. I got overspray on it when I was spraying the front door. I didn't have any issues actually pulling that thing out of there. For some reason, I didn't realize that you had to take this completely out of there. On top of that, you have to remove the guide also. Just a few extra steps taking that out. Everything on the interior here is put back together. I got everything functioning. The only thing that's still left to do, like I said, is to get this weather stripping back on where it's at right here and get this black tape on there. Once I actually do get this back on here, I'm going to take this car to get it cleaned. Everything is now weatherproofed. Before, all the doors, all the seals were taken off, so I couldn't actually wash the car, so that's what I'm really excited to go and do. I'll get started working on the side skirt in the next video. That will be the last piece that I need to paint over here on this side. From there, I just need to repaint the wing, and then I do need to do some detailing on the back trunk. No painting on that though. This needs to be clay barred and polished really, really good. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that like button. If you want to see more going on with the Evo, see everything else get finished painted, please hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you guys next time.